So anyway, I want to thank Debbie and everyone, and best friends included, for getting and organizing a celebration of life for Liam. Unfortunately, my wife Bridget, we call her Joy.
Oh, Dad.
Take a breath.
This is really hard for my dad.
Yeah.
She's ill in hospital today. You'll have to excuse me.
Yeah, of course.
Dad.
Yeah.
I'll take over for a second here.
Thank you.
Okay.
My mom was rushed to the hospital during the night. So we're waiting to hear. If you look at Julianne, she's in the hospital right now with my mother. So that's my mother in the background there. Anyway, it's been a tough day for my dad.
Oh, they're broadcasting from the hospital? Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Hello.
Where is
Hello. Wow.
Where is that?
Which square? Julie McDonald.
Where?
Julie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you are
Oh,
so kind to come to our meeting. Julie.
Yeah.
Oh
Thank
my
you, Julie.
goodness. Oh.
mm.
So just in finishing, I want to thank you so very much for everything you have done, and God bless every one of you.
We love you, dear Patrick.
Okay.
We love you.
God bless you both.
Yeah. Thank you.
The last time we saw Liam, you okay?
Yeah.
Was at my dad's 80th birthday. So it was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was in great form.
Yeah.
And he had all the grandchildren then, and was the life of the party. So it was tragic over the next few years when we didn't have communication with him, with his phone being cut off and letters not being answered and stuff. So it was very nice when people from your community contacted Yvonne and then contacted my dad and told us of the events and activities that they did to ensure that a member of their community was taken care of. So we thank you for all the support and love that you've given a member of our family. It means a lot to us that you took care of him when we didn't know what was going on.
Yvonne, where were you when you saw him 10 years ago? Was that Myrtle Beach or?
No, he was here in Ottawa.
He was in Ottawa.
Here in Ottawa we had a big party at the racetrack here and a big meal, all of us.
80th birthday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he was good, in good shape mentally.
We had a photograph taken.
We had tons of photographs of him.
Yeah, but they took one of the whole family together.
Oh,
It was great.
Yeah.
in the pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's nice to have. Yeah.
I'm so sorry that we didn't know you were there.
No,
Yeah.
but that's
So sorry.
understandable with somebody with
Yeah.
dementia, though. We're just glad that finally somehow we connected so that we could bring closure to this. It is very nice that of all the things, Debbie, that you've done and others in your community have done to reach out to us, it's been a little overwhelming because of my mom being so sick right now. It's all happened at the same time, and hopefully she will recover. But right now, it's been very difficult.
Very brave of you to come at this time. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll hand it back over to you unless
Okay.
some of my siblings want to say something.
Frank? Oh, well, we have a slideshow, and I think we have pictures from that occasion that I'm guessing there are a few family, not the big family picture. You'll see at the end of the slideshow, you'll see some family photos at an event. All right, so here we go. Let's see.
Oh, there he is.
Ah.
I got you on my mind. Someday I'll see you. Someday I'll see your smiling face in the sparkling sun. I have you in my heart. Someday I'll know you. Someday I'll know my real self. Only to be you. You're in everything. Everything lies in you. Let us aspire to know your love and to live your life. We have you in our heart. Someday we'll know you. Someday.
There we are.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry, the
Oh,
sound
beautiful.
quality was, yeah. And you'll have a copy of this after we finish.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Great, yeah.
All right. Well, next we have Max to tell us a bit about Liam's life.
Okay, thank you, Betty. Welcome, everybody. It's so great that Patrick, all of you have been able to make it. First, there was somebody, a Baba follower in Ottawa, Canada, who Yvonne told me, let's see, she, after the birthday party, or at some point, she drove Liam, to this person's house. And he's the one who had informed the family that how Liam was doing and how he was being taken care of.
Yeah.
Now
Now,
I couldn't find him. I called
Oh,
people in Myrtle Beach.
oh yeah, we found them but
Oh.
he declined to get involved in this.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah,
That-
he was a good friend of Liam's, but
Yeah,
for some reason he said, no, I don't want to do
Okay.
that.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a brief biography of Liam. It may
You're the
have a
most.
couple of errors as this was a few paragraphs, and then an avalanche of information started to come in. And I wasn't even sure of all of it. Most of this is I've known for a long time, and Liam told me it personally. So, and you've already begun. Liam was a strong, spiritually motivated person, born on February 21st, 1938.
That's
He
right.
grew up in Ireland. At
Yes.
age 16, he persuaded his parents to move to Montreal, Canada, where they had relatives. I believe he told me he was in a theater company while yet in Ireland. Do you know about that, Patrick? He was in a theater group.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And he was very inspired. He played the role of a Western mystic. I don't know if it was Padre Pia or somebody from South America, but
Oh.
he was very moved by doing that. And he found it quite inspiring. Later in Canada, he studied film and theater with a well-known filmmaker, William Greaves.
Mhm.
In his young adulthood, and Richard, his old friend from the music business, will be telling us more about this later, Liam got into radio and the burgeoning world of rock and roll promotion. In the next decade and a half, he had an awesome array of jobs with radio stations and record companies. He worked with Cat Stevens, Ben E. King, Chris Christopherson, the band Heart, even the Beatles. He went on a tour, Irish and possibly British tour with the Beatles. Brian Epstein, their manager, wrote a recommendation letter about Liam that has surfaced and speaks very highly of Liam's skills, his learning capacity, and his character. In the early 70s, Liam encountered Meher Baba. Not too long after that, he read the book Sobs and Throbs by Ramju Abdullah. This book is an account of an Indian Muslim boy named Ali, who was a student at the Prem Ashram, a school Meher Baba ran for boys, a free school in the 1920s for people of all religions. Ali's father repeatedly removed him from the school because of rumors he had heard and took him back to the family's home in Bombay. And each time Ali made his way back the 100 miles or so to where Baba was on trucks and trains and walk on foot because of love. Liam felt something very, very deep pass through him as he read Sobs and Throbs, and he envisioned making a full-length feature film of Ali's story, which would also introduce the world to Meher Baba. He spent the next 35 years writing, refining, and seeking production for the film. Over the years, he consulted many Baba devotees with experience in writing, theater, and film to help polish the script. Alas, the film never got to the big screen in Liam's lifetime. He gradually came to take it as a blessing he'd been given, a lifelong meditation on Meher Baba. Via the film project, he also brought the name and life of Meher Baba to many, many people in the film business and elsewhere. Many who have known Liam remember him for the light he carried and his gentleness and kindness as well. He died peacefully at around 8 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday, March 15th. His health had made life difficult for the past few years. I would imagine all of that is over now, and he is enjoying the reward for a life of love and service. Happy trails, Brother Liam. Okay, Baba. And I think, Betty, I'll raise my hand later to talk about my personal memories.
Okay, thanks, Max. And now Rainey Eastman Gannett here, redhead, wrote a song for that film called A Gift of Tears, and she's going to sing it for us now. Oh, Rainey, you're muted. There you go.
Hi, and loving wishes to the family, and lovely to meet you and see you, and Liam's friends in our community for so long. I actually knew him as an Australian from India, and then re-met him here. But anyway, one time he came up to me at a meeting and said things were really moving along with the film, and he was even going to approach Ben Kingsley to be Baba and so on. And he was so moved. You could see it was his constant muse. And he said, so we need, an experienced musician like you to write the dramatic film title track. So I got busy with the chorus. I never got into the verses. Now, of course, I will go on with the verses, but I'll just show you the type of thing I presented to him and then tell you a little story about it afterwards. A gift of tears.
Rainey, is
Yes.
your original sound on?
Oh, no, there you go. Sorry. You would think I would, oh, where is- original sound off. There we go. Sorry. A gift of tears. A gift of tears. Beloved, my life, my love. That's all that I have left. A gift of tears. A gift of tears. Beloved, my life, my love. Take this gift of tears. A gift of tears. A gift of tears. Beloved, my life, my love. That's all that I have left. A gift of tears. A gift of tears. Beloved, my life, my love. Take this gift of tears. And the verses were going to be, I joined you as a student, but love was the lesson's aim. I wandered with you on the plains in the universe, and it reduced me to nothing but flame. And then a gift of tears again. Anyway, he loved it. He just thought this was so dramatic, and he thought it was fantastic, and keep going. This is the big idea, you know. And as we know, our dear Liam, us Irish, we love to change our minds a lot. And he'd keep changing his minds about who the star was and who he'd write to next. And this title was not the original title, which Max and Debbie will tell you more about. But Mani Irani, Meher Baba's sister, gave him this title. Anyway, I just put it aside because we had known over the years this venture of his just kept changing and evolving, and I was happy with my part of it. But then I saw him somewhere and I said, Liam, you know, I'm going to start working on the verses and the history, and so I better pull out sobs and throbs. And he said, of what? I said, Liam, the song, A Gift of Tears. He said, no, I've asked somebody rather, I forget now, quite famous to write that. And I was so a bit taken back and went, oh, okay. And then I instantly, I mean, it just must be the Fae in me or something, just realized that's how this is going to be. This is such an evolving, continuous process for him. He actually doesn't want to get to the end.
Right.
It's about creative process, and a lot of us will extend some little part of our creative process, and we don't want it to get to the end. And I did understand that. And so that's the story of my famous intro or outro of A Gift of Tears. And thank you, Lynn, because it was a great meditation. Great to pull it up out of Songbook 4 and now put chords to it, and I'll finish it.
Oh, I hope.
Safe travels, Lynn. Godspeed.
Godspeed. Mary, you next.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I want to give my love to Patrick and the family, and thank you all for this wonderful moment to remember Liam. The slideshow just brought me to tears. So I'm gonna start with just a little story that Liam told me. I believe it was before the dementia. When he was a little boy, we were always talking about Baba and about love. And I think I must have asked him, when was the first time that you ever felt unconditional love and compassion? And he told me that when he was a little boy, his dad gave him $20 to go to the store to get some milk and some eggs and things like that. And so he went to the store, but when he got there, he couldn't find the $20. And then he said that he broke down in tears in front of the merchant at the store, not because he thought his dad was going to get mad at him, but because he didn't want to disappoint his father. So he was crying. And then the merchant at the store, he came around, and Liam said he took him in his arms and hugged him while he was sobbing. And then he handed him a $20 bill from the cash register and said, Liam, here's the $20 to buy the goods to take home to your family. And it was such a beautiful moment. And Liam was always that way. But as Rainey said, you know, that screenplay was his life work, and he never wanted to get to the end. So anyway, I've traveled with Liam for 40 years. As long as I've been married to my husband, I've had Liam as my sidekick along with my husband. So, and we've spent every birthday together. So let me see what I want to say. Okay, so I met Liam in the 1980s when he and I were working at a law firm, and he was assigned to some big case, and he had to distribute all the litigation mail and everything. And so every time I got it in our office after Liam showed up, there was a BABA card clipped to the top of the thing I was getting. And I was going, what? What? This has nothing to do with the case. What is this? So but I really liked it. I liked looking at BABA, and I liked looking at the quotes and everything. So every time any mail came, I was hoping that I'd get a BABA card. And then Liam and I started talking about BABA and what BABA meant to him. And from the time that I've met Liam until this aspect of his life, he has never wavered in his complete surrender and love for Mir Baba. And he has inspired me and humbled me every time that we've ever been together. So, so anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, and so the next thing that Liam did was he loaned me a cassette video of Love Personified. So this was after all of these little BABA cards on my litigation mail. And then he loaned me that video. And the moment that I saw BABA, I just was filled with unconditional love. And I belonged to BABA with Liam by my side. So it was really wonderful. And Liam and I spent our birthdays together over 40 years. So many of those photos that you saw in that slideshow were with Liam with a cake in front of him. So we had such a wonderful, wonderful friendship. And one thing I wanted to say was after, you know, I fell in love with Baba, it was thanks to Liam that I met Bao Kalchuri at a book signing at the East West bookstore in Mountain View. And meeting Bao was so incredible. I mean, it blew my mind. And then also, thanks to Liam, I wrote to Mani and to Bao, and they sent me back those cute little postcards that they used to do. And another thing was Liam and I went to, I think it was the Palace of Fine Arts, and there was a movie there where Henry Kashauti was the voice of Baba. And it was wonderful. So after we went there, I wrote to Henry, and I got back from him, and I will share it with any of you if you ever want it, just let me know. It's a 3-page handwritten letter from Henry Kashauti about the new life. And I can just feel the vibration of Baba's love in that letter. And it was something that I came upon when we were starting to think of how we want to remember and love Liam. So basically, Liam has been a blessing in my life, and he always will be. And I'm just so grateful to have all of you in my life as well. And Jai Baba, Liam, I love you, dear. That's it.
Can I jump in? One of the things that I found in the apartment when I went in is this card that Mani wrote to you Mary.
Oh,
You're Mary, right?
yeah, yes.
'Cause I feel like we've never met, but I got to know you through all the stuff I found in the apartment. So
Yes.
I've never,
Yeah.
but anyway, amongst one of the things is this card that Monty wrote you
Yes.
in 1986. And just to corroborate everything you said, at the end here, she says she says her usual greetings to you. And then she says, much love to you, and of course to Liam.
Yes.
As if she recognized that you guys had some kind of close
He was my brother.
karma.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you know what? I forgot. I wanted.
Just literally found it in the stuff that we found.
Show it up close.
Yeah, it's among some other Monty cards. And it's got, if you look in the background, my favorite picture of Baba.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Higher and
It's to
closer.
Mary. It's to Mary from Monty.
Maybe just
Except-
read it.
Yeah, okay. It
Spotlight.
says, Dear Mary, loved and shared your letter and pictures, J. Baba, to you and dear Jack and Daniel. Is that your family?
Yes.
From us all. The joy of having you, his lovely children, for our heart's family and Baba's love is his dear grace. How blessed you are. Much love to you, and of course to Liam. And a double meow to Daisy and Trumpet. Those must be your cats.
Those were my cats. Yeah.
And then
And
it's
you know-
got Monty's little doodle.
Yeah,
Right.
Show it up close.
Yeah,
Hold it up.
can you
Just put
guys
it
see
up
it?
close.
to your
Monty.
camera.
Closer,
Yeah, where's my
closer.
camera? I'm not so good at this. There.
Go
And you know
closer.
what?
See it?
Closer. Yeah.
Up.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Up a little bit. Up. Up. There. Good.
Okay.
And Mary, you got one of her famous stick figure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You know, if any of you want this, I can email that one in the bow. But the Henry Cashouty letter is so precious. If anybody wants to see it, I can make a PDF.
Yeah,
Well,
yes.
I'd
I'd
it's-
love to see it.
I wanted
Yeah.
to finish. I
it's
got
in the
so
chat.
wrapped-
Please do it.
What
I'm-
year was that you did that with Henry Cashouty?
Where
What
was
year?
I?
What year?
Oh God, I don't even know. Whenever that film came out.
Love Comes West, I think is what Rainy.
Love Comes West.
Okay.
Palace
Yeah.
of Fine Arts, Love Comes West.
Yeah. And you know what? I got so caught up in my love and stories of Liam, I forgot I want to read my poem that I wrote for him. So, and this is the end of me. Into the arms of Mir Baba. Your love for Baba was so contagious that when you spoke of him, I was able to spontaneously experience your great love for the divine beloved. You always said that Baba pulls to him those who feel his love. But without your gentle whispering of silent love, how would I ever have found my way to Baba? Not with words, but through the experience of your love and total surrender, God-man of eternal bliss. Oh, Liam, how can I ever thank you enough? How can I ever redeem myself to your constant humility and complete surrender to Mer Baba? The gift of Baba you gave to me was a priceless gift, a gift so divine, a gift beyond words. When I shut my eyes, I see you now, even more clearly than I did before. By your grace and complete surrender to Mer Baba, you have been my teacher, you have been my friend, you have been my brother. You are in Baba's arms now, as you always have longed to be, and may it be so.
Oopsie.
If everyone could please mute when people are reading or presenting, that would be thoughtful. Thank you.
Let's see. Thanks, Rainy. Yeah, it's it's hard to keep. Yeah, let's what's the word? Mind a muting. Debbie, you're next, and you'll need to unmute. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I don't really have a story. my role in this thing was unique in that I jumped in the last year and a half or 2 years of Liam's life because I was by profession a public conservator. And most people know the gist of the story, but for the purposes of this, I mean, the story is quite a Baba story of how we found him and rescued him and all the other things that happened and the various doctors and placements and whatnot. But I think the one thing I want to share for this in remembrance of Liam is that he was not a close friend of mine. He was just somebody I knew in the Baba community and I would see from time to time. But I always liked him and I always felt kind of just a natural ability to just say hello and chat. And I didn't always feel that with every Baba person I knew. But in 1983, I was going through a difficult time in my life. All during the early 80s, I was going through a very difficult time in my life. I left the Sufis precipitously. I was kind of at odds, didn't know what I was doing exactly. And I had applied to graduate school and gotten accepted. And I needed a place to live, and I didn't have a particularly solid place to live. And I ran into Liam at some Baba gathering. I believe it was when we used to hold those meetings in the Quaker church. Does anybody remember that?
Yeah.
In the Berkeley area? I think it was then. And somehow we got to talking and about music, because I'm a big fan of music. I grew up with listening to great music, and my current husband is a big band musician for his entire life. So somehow we were just chatting, and I mentioned that I was looking for an apartment or something. And without dropping a beat, he said, "Oh, I have this nice apartment, but I'm moving out. And if you want it, I'll just let the landlord know, and it shouldn't be a problem." And so he contacted the landlord. It was on Stanford Avenue in Oakland, right off of San Pablo Avenue. When Stanford Avenue wasn't run down, it was quite nice back then. Anyway, so just sort of effortlessly, I contacted the landlord, and somehow he accepted my application, and I moved in. And it was a very cute little apartment. Liam had kept it very nicely. And it was just perfect for me to get started and go to school. And the schooling that I was doing was to get a master's degree in clinical psychology and to work toward working with severely mentally ill people. And toward that end, I got hired as a conservator in Marin County in 1987. And conservatorship deals with the treating the severely mentally ill and people with cognitive disabilities, dementia, other kinds of things, through a series of laws that California has that involve the courts and involve getting them help. So anyway, I had decided not to go to school if I couldn't find a reasonable place to live that was convenient. So in many ways, I sort of credit Liam with getting me that apartment. It sounds kind of crazy, and catapulting me into this work that became my career for 35, I don't know how many years, until I retired in August 1971. And my working with people with dementia, very difficult people, working with the courts, working with physicians and hospitals, it's as if I was able to sort of pay him back. I don't know if that makes any sense. But when it became clear that he was in this very serious crisis situation, and people like Mary and everybody was trying to help, and I just recognized that he needed way more of an organized and dedicated kind of intervention. But anyway, so that happened. And his last few months on Earth, I became sort of de facto his conservator without the court order and without the paycheck. It just became sort of a natural process where I was assisting him each step of the way with to get him into good placements and safe environments. And eventually in the hospital where he passed, he was blessed with, it seemed as if every caregiver or professional that ended up getting assigned to interact with him was about as good as you could ask for. And I say that as somebody who worked 40 years in the system. And let me tell you, they're not all good. You catch my drift there. And everyone allowed me to help and give feedback. And Liam always accepted my help. And he would always say, Deborah Tyler, when I would call or ask him if it was all right, because I didn't have the legal bootstrapping that I needed because of the terrible way in which he found himself, unconscious with a heart attack and then unable to make any decision. So for me, it's kind of a full circle kind of thing, if that makes any sense. And then the one thing I want to say that just kind of touches on what everybody else has said. All during Liam's last few months where he exhibited typical dementia, confusion, change in personality, some helplessness, some days of clarity, he never, ever forgot Meher Baba. And if I would call or say, chat, and I would say Meher Baba, his whole affect would brighten up and he would say, darling Meher Baba, whether there was a nurse standing there or, somebody. And even at the end, as he was sort of slipping into a coma, he was able to try to say Jai Baba. And he had a wonderful physician at the hospital that was just randomly assigned to him. And I actually called that physician. I haven't heard back from him because I found out he works the Sunday shifts. Because I was actually going to invite him to this Zoom meeting because he was such a fabulous guy. And he ended up having, I could tell, a real affection for Liam as his patient for 10 days. And at a certain point, when it was clear there really wasn't much else to do, and Liam was allowing me to make decisions very finely without the proper documentation, but just within the very bare confines of the law, the doctor called me and he said, oh my God, he said, the body has declared itself. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And then he passed away the next day. So I guess the point of my story is, it did seem to me that Baba was sort of guiding the process and making sure that he had the best possible experience of being in a very difficult cognitive state as he was getting ready to pass. It had a feel of sweetness to it. And I only can say that I think it was Baba. So, and thank you, Liam, for letting me do what I love to do. It was really it.
Debbie, I hope you'll send a link to this video to the doctor.
I plan to, yes. His name was Alvin Rivera. And he was a real sweetheart. And we kept looking for, I don't know if Yvonne and everybody are still on the line. We kept looking for the family and we couldn't find them. And that's a whole story. And of course, Liam couldn't remember. But anyway, he had a very sweet passing. I want the family to know that. So
How did you get in touch with the family? Who did?
well, it was really Max Reese,
Max.
who isn't it right, Max? Wasn't it you?
I think Richard
Yeah.
Skelly
Well,
helped. Richard Skelly-
somebody,
Oh, Debbie, I remember now. Richard Skelly, I had posted on Facebook about Liam.
yeah,
Many people that I knew had comments and then there was a back channel message from someone who will be speaking later and had reconnected with Liam, had been in the music business with Liam
right.
long ago and had reconnected, found Liam on, well, I should let him tell the story, but anyway. So he said, I'm in Canada, let me volunteer to do a search for Liam's living relatives. And he found them. Maybe he'll tell us how when it's his turn.
And what's amazing is professional entities were looking, through internet searches and that sort of thing. And I didn't realize, I hadn't reached out to you, Max, which I probably should have, because a couple of years back, we had talked about Liam sort of disengaging from you due to his dementia. And it never dawned on me to call you. I called Ben, and Ben was thought that Patrick might have not be here anymore. And so it just kind of became a thing as time was passing, and we just plodded on with what needed to be done. But yeah, then they all appeared. So
I had seen the photos of Liam with his nieces or grandnieces on Facebook, and so I knew there was somebody out there.
right,
So Richard undertook the search and found them. You found
Right.
Yvonne first, I believe.
right.
Frank's got a hand up and I know he has to leave soon. So Frank, you want to say something? Where'd you go? Oops. I thought Frank, are you here? Huh.
He posted in the chat that he had to leave and that he wanted your email and Deborah's and Betty's emails. If they
Yeah, I'm still here, sorry.
still there. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to thank everyone for attending. I have to leave right now. Unfortunately, I had something else planned at the same time. Anyway, I'd like to thank you. I've left my email address in the chat. I don't do Facebook or anything like that, so it's our family is very hard to reach that way.
We've got your email. That's good enough.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Thanks
Frank.
for coming, Frank.
Okay.
Bye bye. Jai Baba, as we say. Let's see. Richard Skelly. Richard, I hope you can show your face. I don't know if you're next. Richard, are you there? You need to unmute. And I'm hoping we can see you.
I don't know about seeing me. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a complete amateur at this, and I was terrified that I was going to disconnect from the whole proceedings. So I'm obviously off camera. I don't know how that works, and I don't want to start monkeying around lest I
Oh,
fall
it's
off.
easy. It's
But you
easy.
can hear me, eh?
Yes, but do you see at the bottom of your screen a kind of an icon of a camera on my?
Yes.
It
Okay. And the prompts? Yeah. Okay.
just click it. Just click on it.
I did,
Uh,
but I don't know if there's any visual.
He may not have a camera.
oh, okay. All right. Pardon me. Well, anyway, we're really, really glad that you're here, Richard.
But you can still hear me.
We can hear you just fine. Yeah.
And you're probably seeing a silhouette in your top
Huh?
right screen or something instead of my not so great looking face at the age 69. I just turned 69 a few days ago, and but yeah, I knew Liam back in 1971 is when we met. I was in grade 12 at Richmond High School, and a few months earlier, actually, just when I was in the summer vacation between grade 11 and 12, I had gotten a job along with another friend writing music reviews, record reviews for the Richmond Review newspaper. And then that led to us doing the same for another paper in Vancouver called the Kerrisdale Courier. And over time, I think by the time I met Liam, I had graduated to having my own little column in the Richmond Review. And but in the big scheme of things, I was not a big deal in the music industry. I mean, this is pretty low grade, but Liam seemed to take me as his project. I think he noticed my eagerness for learning about FM music, more serious music than the top 40 that my friend and I were more into. And so he would regularly invite me over to his house in an area called Kitsilano in Vancouver. And this was sort of ground zero for Haight Ashbury North from about 1967, and it was still going strong as Haight Ashbury North, for all the hippies and all the counterculture. And Liam and his, I think it was his wife. I understood it to be her name was Sharon, very pretty girl, and they were in this neat house in Kitsilano. So it seemed to be Saturday afternoons every couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, he'd invite me over and he'd sit me down and he'd sort of play me a lot of Cat Stevens or Rita Coolidge or various people, sometimes not even artists his own label was promoting. He just, you should know about this, Richard. And so I learned a lot just in probably 6 or 8 months. And then his relationship ended and he moved away. And I think our last conversation, he called me up and said, "Oh, I've got to get going because, just I've had a turn of events here with my relationship." And I remember him saying he wanted to go to England and he was going to work with Joe Cocker and Fairport Convention. A little unclear whether he was still doing that for A&M Records or whether he was going to work for them personally. But I know he then stopped off in Montreal for a little time after he left Vancouver. This would have been May of 1972. And he assisted with some major program to bring reporters and media people from Europe, England especially, over to Canada to see many of our artists performing and get to meet these artists as well. So it was a big undertaking, and I know Liam he did participate as sort of a promotion person for that. And then it was about a year later in 73, we reconnected. He was in Vancouver and he said, you really like spiritual things. So why don't we meet up and go to see this seminar for the Guru Maharaji was this fellow's name. And at that point, he was about a 15-year-old perfect master and or so-called perfect master. But there was going to be a huge rally for him, I think in Dallas or Houston at the Astrodome the following month. So this was like an advanced, you got to be there seminar at the University of British Columbia. with Rennie Davis as the sort of spokesman for the movement. And Rennie Davis had been one of the so-called Chicago 7 activists that had protested against the system at the Democratic Convention in 1968. But since then, I don't know if Rennie, I think they pretty well all were acquitted, or he didn't do much jail time, but he was out and about, real great salesman. But so Liam and I went to that, and we went to some other things because he'd come back to Vancouver every few months, and then the following year in 74, I moved to Montreal for 5 or 6 months to take some courses at the University of Montreal, because I was in university in this time. And Liam was living in Montreal. So we saw each other a lot then. And I think at that point, Liam was working as a independent promotion person for Island Records. And then he got the job with Mushroom, that I think Patrick had mentioned, Mushroom Records. And this was a label out of Vancouver, but of course they needed a good representative in Eastern Canada. So there was Liam. And in fact, I think I drove him down to the airport when he was going to one of the meetings in Vancouver with a fellow called Sheldon Siegel was the sort of president of Mushroom Records. And this again was 74. And Liam was doing some work, as I say, with other labels at the time. And he'd have me tag along with them to radio stations. Like there was a big FM station in Montreal called CHOM, CHOM. And they were very much into progressive music and like Pink Floyd and various French, Canadian, Quebec artists that were very trippy sounding. And so, yeah, Liam would take me down to this mansion where the radio station was. And it was all quite interesting. And I was starting to write for the National Music Industry magazine around that time as well. I mean, I was still going to university, but sort of expanding beyond this little community newspaper I'd done. But it was just sort of friendship and spiritual questing. If I could go back to 1971 and the hippie district, Liam took me to this bookstore called Banyan Books. And, you know, he was saying, oh, you should read this and you should read that. And I said, well, I've got so much money here, I could buy one. He said, well, look, I'll buy you one and you get the other. So I think he bought me Be Here Now by Baba Ramdas. And the other one was the autobiography of a yogi. And so that was quite kind of him to buy me the book. And I read both of them. Subsequently, I got into transcendental meditation. Along the way, I dabbled in Scientology, and I remember Liam cautioning me when I told him about that. He said, look, I'm not one to criticize other movements or other faiths, but he said, you should be aware that with Scientology, it can go on forever. They just keep creating course after course after course. And there's never sort of a real end to it. I don't know if he had actually taken it, but he seemed to know enough about it to caution me. And that indeed came to pass. I kept noticing that, I was taking various introductory courses, but it was like, oh, you've got to keep going up the ladder. Whereas transcendental meditation, you learned your technique and that was pretty well it. So he was just, he wasn't a close friend, but I would call him a friend. He was technically a good acquaintance, but I did wish for him to become a friend. And, but of course he was out and about, and in 75, I think it was, he actually became the national promotion manager for Island Records. And it was late 75, early 76 was when I last saw him. He was establishing a local promotion manager for Western Canada. And so he introduced me to him, and, you know, we had a chat. And I think at that point, Liam, he had spoken about Mayor Baba in '74 when I was in Montreal. And by early '76, whatever, I think he was talking about wanting to go to India. I think somewhere between '74, '76, Liam had gone down to Myrtle Beach and was very impressed, and then wanted to go to India, which my reading on it would indicate that's probably Meher Abad, the sort of ashram community where Mayor Baba was interred, and was like a real site for devotees to go. So that was it. Didn't talk to him after that. I got on the internet late in, what was it, about 2006. And there was 3 or 4 people I wanted to find, and 2 of them had already passed away. And as I subsequently found, but I could never find Liam. He didn't seem to have a footprint that I could find online. And I ended up joining Facebook in 13 or 14 and couldn't find him then. There was a million Liam Mullans, and I tried both spellings. I tried Llan and Mullen. But in my wanderings online, I had found a little reminiscence from a Mayor Baba devotee. I forget her name, but she was writing sort of in the third person about Jean Adriel, this sort of one of the matriarchs of the Mayor Baba faith. And Jean, of course, had known Mayor Baba and had written the book, The Avatar, in the 40s. But from the way this woman wrote the synopsis, that Jean had at some point been disillusioned with Mayor Baba and had left, but then returned to the fold at a subsequent date. And then all those years later, probably the late '70s, early '80s, she was starting to wind down. And I think the way this was written, she had some concerns about death and what awaited. And this woman who was writing the synopsis said, but she spoke about this young man called Liam Mullan and how they had spoken, and how what he told her, you know, reassured her and calmed her mightily. And I was in the library. I didn't have a desktop, or I still don't have a desktop. I didn't have any real internet access at that point. So I go to the library and I read the thing. And this woman misspelled the name. She put Mullen. But the minute I read that about how Liam spoke to her and had just this way of calming her, and she felt much more at peace, I actually blurted out loud, "That is so Liam." Everybody in the library sort of turned around, and the resource person of the library sort of, but it just struck me that had to be Liam. And it was only in this last couple of weeks, you know, in the wake of Liam passing, that I think it was Max who said, yeah, that was Jean Adriel. And indeed, Liam did have many talks with her. So I don't know exactly when that happened. I believe Jean died in 1984. And Max said he thought Liam was living in Los Angeles at that point, and then moved up to the Bay Area. So by hook and by crook, I got more and more Facebook friends. And a couple times I would mention Liam in putting a comment on a friend's music post or something. And a couple of them said, I knew Liam. And both of them have subsequently passed away. One was a disc jockey, radio programmer, and the other was a musician called Terry McManus, who was on A&M Records. But both of them said last I heard, he was in the Bay Area. And then a third person who I think Liam had briefly worked for in 1974, I reached out to him by email. He wasn't on Facebook, but he said he too had often wondered what became of Liam Mullan and had such fond memories of him. And he said, I think he's in the Bay Area. And he had last spoken to him in the early 1980s. So that was a clue. And I would go every so often, I go onto Facebook and plug in Liam Mullan Bay Area. And I think one time I put Liam Mullan, Meher Baba, Oakland, some set of parameters on the search. And up came the photo. And it was an older photo from back in the 70s of Liam. And there it was. And I reached out and I sent him a long direct message. Didn't hear back on that, but I sent him a friend request as well. And then 2 or 3 months afterwards, he accepted my friend request. And but he never responded to the direct message. And there was a couple of other direct messages I sent, and one of those messages did get a response. So a little, tick that this has been read. And it was about an old friend of his from the music business called Richie York. And Richie had passed away and was getting a posthumous award. So I don't think Liam perhaps had known that Richie had died, but he was happy that Richie had obviously gotten this posthumous award. So that was the only one of the direct messages that I know for sure Liam saw. And I sent him an email and never got a response to that. But just in recent days, looking back on Liam's post going back to 2017 or so, and there was some comment by Liam of, I don't do emails anymore. I think that was in late 2020 or something, or late 2019, before he and I became friends. There was some passing reference he made to, I don't do emails anymore. So it wasn't that he didn't want to contact me or anything. It was obvious, as I found out, he was dealing with some very severe health issues, and it just gladdens my heart that so many of you took an interest in him and knew him in his later years, because he was a pretty special guy. I mean, I would not have been the person I became without him and 2 or 3 others in the early stages of the music industry. But with Liam, it was also the spiritual component. And he was questing. In fact, I think he joked, we're questers. Hey, quester. He would say, hey, quester. I'd say, hey, quester. And I'm so glad he found spiritual fulfillment. I never quite did. I always was a bit of a dilettante. And but I do have a belief in a higher power. And he's one of the more important people in my life. And I'm glad to some degree we reconnected at the end. And certainly I hope to some degree there's a reconnection of essences on the other side, or in reincarnation, whatever awaits on that other side. But there you go. That's kind of my story with Liam. Some of these things I'm gonna put in my long Facebook post. I haven't done it yet. It's a very difficult thing to write about because everybody wants short things on Facebook, but I always write long anyway. But this is going to be particularly long, and I'm going to put it on a couple of music industry pages here in Canada. And I think I'll leaven it with a few songs that, Liam brought to my attention, or that I relate to Liam. One last thing, I was struck by one thing I found on Facebook. It was a poem that I guess Max had a meeting with a lunch with Liam, and he wrote a poem about friendship. And I guess it's kind of friendship I had hoped, I could reconnect with Liam. I'd get down to San Francisco and see him, and we'd really bond. That was my ideal. But this poem by Max, I'll read a little bit of it. How good it is to have a friend, someone you can show up to meet, feeling out of sorts, thinking maybe you can get through it, and maybe he won't notice. And as you float merrily along a flower-strewn path back to your car, an hour or so afterwards, thinking, how could I have been so silly? God, of course, is the friend, but in that compassion sends kindred souls whose ears and hearts come from and go straight to that big one. If you don't have a friend, find one now. And if you have only one, look around. 7 billion more are waiting. Very, very powerful words from Max.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks so much. You contributed a facet of life that we didn't know too much about. So wonderful.
Thank you for your tenacity, Richard. Lovely to meet you.
Good.
Thank you for the poem, Richard. I have no memory of ever writing it, but I enjoyed it.
Very nice. Can I share one of the documents we found in Liam's apartment that was in the one folder that was not corrupted by his confusion or anything? It was pristine. It had many, many letters from various record companies that Liam worked in, as you pointed out, Richard, in the 60s and 70s. And there's one newspaper article here, but unfortunately, it doesn't say what the newspaper is, but it basically corroborates everything you just said about Liam being the A&M's West Coast man. Liam Mullan is generally regarded as being one of Canada's leading promotion men. His achievements, and then it goes on to list songs that he brought forward: A Song of Joy by Miguel Rios, Current Song of Rita Coolidge, Neil Young. And then it skips down to the fact that he'd been getting so many offers from different companies in Canada, most of which he'd rejected. And the article says, since joining A&M, Mullan has received offers from virtually every record company in Canada, all of which he has rejected. He is not a man to easily change allegiances. And then it's a sort of a quote from Liam. Liam says, in his opinion, the main problem with Canadian promotion men is that they, quote, don't listen to music. What gets any record off is true belief. You've got to listen and you've got to feel it. Frankly, I don't just service or work for a station with any record unless I'm into it and believe it myself. And for me, that is such a clear characteristic that Liam had, and he clearly evinced all that in his work on his screenplay. It had to be just right, and it had to have integrity, and you can see little bits and pieces of this about going back into these letters of companies that he worked for, fairly well-known record companies in the day, and some of them today, where he maintained this kind of high integrity about things. And I just think that's interesting because you were mentioning, oh, and this is dated 1971, which is the period of time you alluded to in the beginning of your presentation.
Is there a picture of Liam there?
Yeah, it's on the very bottom. It's just a black and white. There it is. And it's just a sort of letter of praise, and talks about how he was trying to promote Procol Harum, which turned out to be a very important musical group later on in the world of music. And that he just always stuck with what he thought was right. That's what I get when I read through these different letters. He had that perseverance to stick with what he thought was right and not give in.
Great.
A good character trait.
Thanks, Debbie. That's
You're
great.
welcome.
Yeah, that's a treasure. Let's see, Mary Weiss is next on our list.
Hey,
From
Baba,
Hawaii.
thank you so much for including me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Super. This has been like the opportunity to appreciate facets of a diamond, different periods, different friends in Liam's life, Liam's family. It's just been really lovely. I wrote down a couple of notes so I can stay focused here. Liam was my friend. He was a unique combination of Irish charm and devotional love for Avatar Meher Baba, his beloved. And he was inspiring to be around. The first time I met him, I was living in San Francisco, and it was probably before 1973. And we were getting ready to celebrate Meher Baba's birthday. And so I was living in San Francisco and I drove past Liam's place in order to get to the Baba meetings in the East Bay. And so I sort of acted as his social director for him to get involved in the meetings, because left to his own devices, he had a kind of hermit quality because he could sit alone and meditate and think about Baba, or he could work on his screenplays, and the rest of the world could just do as it wished. And I'm like, well, Liam, it's not just for you, it's for other people, come on. So I would convince him to go to the Baba meetings. And then once he got there, he would be interacting with people and he would really love it. I was sort of chuckling when Mary McDonald was talking about Liam working in a law office in San Francisco, because I used to kind of kid him about being like Clark Kent, cleverly disguised as an ordinary employee while he's writing a screenplay about the avatar of the age. We had meetings in San Francisco, and at the meetings, a number of us would get together and be reading Meher Baba's discourses, and Liam was the point of contact for that. And we would have meetings in different places, and sometimes it was at my house, and there was another lady named Pat, and so we would come together in a not terribly organized but very sweet way and share our love for Baba, and also read his discourses and talk about what that meant to us. These were very active years, and in 1993, 94, we were getting ready for Meher Baba's 100th birthday party, and lots of things were going on having to do with art and literature and music, and it was wonderful. And one of my memories of that is that the folks who were in the South Bay and also in the San Francisco area threw me a surprise party. And Liam was one of the co-conspirators, and he says, come on, well, we have this meeting. I can't tell you what it's all about, etc. So it was very, very sweet. And basically, pretty much from the time that I got my computer, I would be swapping emails with Liam. But we would be able to get together and review the screenplays and share his progress, and maybe do a little editing on the announcements, the promotional materials. Also, he loved music. And so San Francisco was a great place for music and also for first run movies. He loved to do that as well. So I was interested in what Richard had to say about Jean Adriel because after Liam passed, I was just kind of looking for other information about his life in order to sort of fill out the picture. And I read on the internet that Jean Adriel loved talking to him. Well, no wonder. There was such a special aura about him. And his intimate relationship with the beloved was very contagious. And I count it as a blessing to have had Liam as a friend in my life. So rest in beloved Baba's embrace, dear Liam. Jai Baba.
Thank you, Mary. That was beautiful. Ben, you're next on the list. You got to unmute. Now you're good.
Yeah, I see you. Okay. Oh, I thought I'd tell the story that Liam went to, he was going to India quite often. Sometimes he went twice in 1 year. And he would go to Bombay to talk to people who could produce his movie. And one time he went to Bombay, and I think this is how it happened. He told me as he came back that I think he was picked up at the airport by a policeman who took him to the police headquarters, which was run by Raj Kilnani, who is a Baba lover who grew up in Kushu Quarters, which is now the Meher Baba Trust office in Ahmednagar. Anyhow, I guess it was planned ahead of time. It didn't shock Liam that he ended up at the police headquarters talking to Raj. But Raj had created a tie with a few Bombay movie producers and directors, and he arranged for Liam to go out and talk to these two different directors, and from the police office, he got an escorted ride over to the one director, and he had a long talk. And I guess maybe over the days that he was there, he talked to this guy several times and to another guy several times, and both of them wanted to produce the movie, Sobs and Throbs, or whatever it was called at the time. And it was called A Gift of Tears. But Liam wasn't willing to do it because he didn't get a good impression from these guys who were pretty successful, it sounded to me, because he wanted control over, Liam wanted control over how it would be presented. He wanted his vision of the movie, and he wasn't convinced that these two guys were going to do it the way he wanted it to be done. But I thought it was pretty cool that he at least got people really earnestly interested, willing to contract with him to make the film, but he pulled back because he wanted to do it according to his vision. And then other times he'd tell me stories of meeting these great famous movie stars in India, part of the Bollywood movie scene, and have photos of him and these actresses. And so he was rubbing shoulders and elbows with these pretty well established people in the Indian film industry. So I wanted just to mention that because you feel like it went on and you never got anywhere with it, but he did. He got some people interested, but he wanted to have it done according to his vision. And so he pulled back. I think that's all I'll say today. Liam, I was the last person probably among the Babic people to see him. I visited him at Lake Park in Oakland, and he was looking pretty good. He was pretty much oriented. He knew who he was. He couldn't remember my name, but he was doing pretty good. And we talked for about 45 minutes, and we had a nice chat, and he was content. He said, everything is temporary. He was pretty earnest about that. And he said, God alone is real, and all else is Ben Leet. And Ben Leet on steroids. That was his comment, which he smiled at me, knowing how clever he was.
Oh, come on, Ben. Jeez.
I put up with it. Anyhow, we had a nice talk, and I delivered the book to him, the Korshad biography, and he was happy to get it. I asked, do you read? He says, I read all the time. And I think that it was just as long as he could. We talked as long as it seemed comfortable for his energy level. Because, at that point, he wasn't, going to talk for much longer than that. So he was doing pretty well. And the people there liked him, and they were caring for him very well. Okay, that's my story.
That's great, Ben. Thank you.
Yeah.
A window on. Let's see. I see Farhad has joined us. Dear Baba Farhad.
Betty,
Yes.
Betty, it's Emer.
Yes.
Do you mind if I just interject for a moment?
Please, please.
We have to go just because I have to make dinner for my family and for my dad.
Oh.
Because it's 5:30 for us here. Anyway, we really appreciate you including us in your celebration of Liam's life. And we just have to go though.
Oh, we appreciate your joining. You made it so special.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you. And you'll be getting that link. You can watch it again and again.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
And Patrick, I'll answer your email separately, okay? The email you sent me, I'll answer it separately.
Oh, I think it was my brother Mark that sent it.
Frank, okay.
Frank, okay.
Yeah, I'll answer that separately.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Nice
thanks
to see you.
everybody.
God
Thank
bless
you.
you all.
Bye.
Bless
Bless
you.
you.
Bye. Yeah.
You too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Love you.
Please go with go with God.
Okay.
Yeah, how am I getting out of this?
Let's see. Do you see the red button leave? Okay, it looks like there's, if you go leave here. Okay. I just wondered, Farhad, if you had any time constraints. We have a, let's see, you're muted.
No, I don't have any anymore. I did, that's why I joined late.
Okay, wonderful.
So nice to see you, Farhad.
Wonderful to see you. I joined just as Mary was talking, and it reminded me of old times.
My goodness.
All right, then we'll go down the list. The next person are Fred and Janet White. And you'll need to unmute.
There we go. There we go. All right, there we are. You go first. For my story to make sense, the way it made sense to me, you have to know that I learned about the practice of Tasawwuri Murshid, which is the aspirant imitating the master and his behavior, which made an impression on me. And also hearing Francis Brabazon say that the beloved is avid, eager for the lover's praise and stone deaf to his complaints. My introduction to Liam was about 1985. He gave me an early version of his screenplay to read. And when I met him at Pilgrim Pines, the Los Angeles Sahavas gathering. I'd read it and he asked me what I made of it. And that screenplay was definitely getting pushed in at the deep end. The beginning scene seemed to be the formation of the cosmos with the first separate soul emerging through the Om point. And I could see how important this was to him, but I really had a hard time understanding how it was going to be put on the screen. So I talked about the parts I could praise, and he listened very closely. And if I said anything that was not praise, he stared straight ahead and didn't hear me. It was the purest demonstration of Baba's stone deafness to complaints and eagerness to hear praise. It was amazing. It was memorable, and I got to know Liam in a different way after that, which was lots more fun for both of us, I'm sure. But that was quite a start to the friendship.
Fred, yeah.
Oh yeah, well, I just have a few 3 little vignettes that illustrate what luck Liam had. I think it was actually Baba looking out for him, but I like to think of it as Liam's luck. Well, we had this time about 2.5 years ago where Liam was having difficulty driving around. So, and the first thing is he lost the key to his car. So I helped him get a new key to his car, which was a big deal because you had to get a chip made and all this thing. So we got that done. And then I was having problems getting Janet's car registered because it would never pass, it wouldn't pass the smog test. And because the computer, you have to drive at a certain number of miles, a certain number of speeds. So one day I decided to take Liam for a drive down to Oakland to try and get my I already failed smog. So I had Liam in the car and I went going along San Pablo Avenue. And it was this little place down there run by an Asian guy. And I just popped in there and he said, yeah, $50. And I was not expecting anything to happen. And he said, oh, you passed smog. So I passed him the money. It was during COVID. So we had to put the money in a basket on a pole and pass it across the hood of the car. And then that was done. And then came back and said, Liam, you're really lucky for me today. And then the next thing was, I think it was like December. It was the same month, and the car, this is Janet's Honda, was having problems. And it was a really cold day. I was driving down to Liam's place, and I happened to turn the heat on and the windshield wipers. But my battery was so run down that just doing those two things caused my car to die. And I had to pull over inside of Martin Luther King, and I pulled in front of this apartment, and there was this guy waiting there. And I said, my car just died, my battery's dead, and I have to call AAA, and it'll probably take, hour and a half usually for them to get there. And he said, no, wait, I've got this battery booster. And he just ran in and brought out this little device and popped the hood, started me right up. I mean, it's like he was waiting. He's waiting there, and it was raining, it was cold. So I proceeded to go to Liam's, and I left the motor running, went in, got Liam, we went shopping. We went to Trader Joe and got him some stuff, and he went in, I stayed with the car running. Came back, and then the third time I would say was more recently in December, and Liam was really having a hard time. And Nancy Friedberg called us because she was very concerned that she had been going up to Liam's house almost every day in the morning to take him food and things. But then she got COVID, so she couldn't go. And she she called us up and said something like, she yelled at Janet and said, "Mastery and servitude. What are you guys doing?" You know, something like this. So I thought, well, we better do something. And so I would take him some cooked food, maybe every couple of days. I go out and get a burrito from this Mexican restaurant, and I cut it in half and give him half a burrito. And then 2 days later, I'd take him the next half. So I did that a couple of times. And the last time I went in, it was a Saturday. And I turned in on the street, 66th Avenue in Oakland. And as soon as I turned in, I knew something was going on, because there's a fire truck, there's a police car in front of his place. I thought, uh-oh, this is really not good. And it turned out that Liam had a heart attack, and his neighbor,
3 different women had called Adult Protective Services to do a welfare check on Liam.
So
No, it was the police.
No,
We called
no.
the police.
the
Yeah.
police and
And then Ellen and I
they had
called
to
the
break
police.
down the door
Yeah.
because he'd had a heart attack. He couldn't come to the door, and his next door neighbor had been checking on him. And she couldn't get an answer. So she's the one who called the police. And I stood there.
No, Fred, it was Ellen. It was Ellen Van Ellen and me.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yes.
you guys had done
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
3 different people had checked on him
Had
that
been
day.
calling.
Had been calling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I saw him. I think they were just bringing him out on a gurney, and he couldn't talk very much. He was just,
He also had a stroke.
Well, I didn't know about the stroke, but I mean, it was just so I was able to contact you guys, and I don't know if you were in touch with the police, and that was the last I saw of him, really.
And then for the rest of his life, he was taken care of,
Yeah.
which he needed, thanks to Debbie and her professional expertise and all of the people who knew about it as the word got out. So all of these people were concentrating on Liam's welfare and his passage. Because
And Karen, don't forget Karen.
and Karen Talbot.
And you, Fred,
Yes.
don't forget. Yeah, then it became a focused effort.
Then once you were involved, things really started to happen.
You knew
Yeah,
how
because
it
I
should
just
be
felt
done.
like I was back at work. It was
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
But don't short sell yourself.
You and Karen and Ellen and Nancy, you were there on the phone with all his carers in the room. You were on speaker and you asked Liam, "Are you ready to go?"
Right.
And he said very firmly, "Yes."
Yeah. Oh.
Well, we have 2 more names in that group of the last responders that we've gone through. Is as Mary says, the facets of the diamond, Liam Mullan. And so if it's okay, I'll go to Ellen Van Allen. Do you have the contribution? And then we're going to open it up. I know others of you have had experiences that you want to share.
Mute ourselves.
Okay, so I wrote something out to keep my focus, and I revised a date or two because excuse me, and listening to other presenters here, because I'm not good at sequence in histories. So in the late 80s, I believe it was, Liam took a year or 2 to live in Sonoma, up in Sonoma County, away from city life, and work on his script for the film. He became a part of our small Sonoma County group, which had been meeting since 1972. People I remember participating at that time are Jack and Sandra Bamer, Bob and Sosie Malta, perhaps Steve and Debbie Barbosi, perhaps Brad Mandel. A number of others are possible, but as I said, I'm not good at sequential memory. Liam contributed great light and focus to our meetings. I remember one particularly lovely evening meeting when we were just listened to and dissolved in a tape of the Chicago group's recording of the East-West Gathering. After a couple of years, he moved on, and I would meet him from time to time at the Sufi plays in the early years, at Bay Area meetings in India in later years, and later on when he was in Oakland. And always through all of that, his focus was on Baba and the film. And I wanted to say that at last he has gone to his beloved. And what work Liam did for him here we cannot know, but Baba knows.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now Karen Talbot.
Oh, I just have to say, Ellen was a huge help. I want everybody to know that.
Thank you,
That's
Deb.
all I want to say.
With the logistics, I think you mean getting it.
Ellen and Karen.
Yeah. All right, Karen.
Jai Baba, everyone. And I want to thank everybody that's here because essentially you were all Liam's community. And the amount of care that was given to Liam when he needed it was given by each and every one. I want to mention Debbie Tyler, who flew out here and amazingly, without forms being filled out, got every person needed to talk to her. Adult Protective Services, the doctors, the cremation. I mean, Debbie, you really did a fantastic job. Kevin, the landlord.
Thank
Fred,
you.
I want to mention
That's enough. That's enough.
No, but it's true. It's true. And I know
But you guys were so, you were essential. You jumped in without thinking. So.
I want to share one memory of Liam.
Okay.
And that is not here in the Bay Area. But I think more than on one occasion, Alan and I were in Myrtle Beach. And we met Liam because at that time he was living in Myrtle Beach. And I just have to say, he just beamed. I mean, he was very happy there, but he also was happy to see us. And we had a wonderful reunion. So he had many communities and many Baba communities. I know that he's known for the gift of tears and his work in that area. But in going through the papers, I also found one thing that I found very interesting. It was a very short, what I believe to be play of a Westerner who lived at Mehrabad in the 20s, maybe 26, 27, or part of that time, named either Louis Charles Nellums or Charles Louis Nellums. And we have a copy of that at the El Cerrito Center. So I want to look a little bit more into it, read it, and then if others are interested, let me know. Because I thought, we knew all about the story of Ali, but this was something else and interesting as well. So Jai Baba to everyone here, and especially to Liam Mullan. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Well, at this time,
I'd just like to say, Karen, that Jeanette Young, from living on Mayher Road, she was in a play with her 2 children on her trip to India with Liam. And she sends her regards to everyone and remembers him fondly from that trip, and could be that play, Karen. I'm not sure. I'll ask her.
Thank you, Rainey.
So now it's time to open up our sharing to anyone who'd like to raise a hand and contribute their experiences or to the meeting. Okay, Rainey, you've got your hand up.
We have to go soon, and I've got a headache today. I'm not very well, but I would like to say that when Liam moved to his apartment with the White Horse Hotel on the corner, which he thought was very symbolic of him finding that apartment in Berkeley, and that these, as he put it, absolutely beautiful African-American family, I do believe, owned it, and they were incredibly kind to him. And I had this thing with Thanksgiving, and of course I overdo it with all the American occasions because I'm not an American. And so I had this thing that after Thanksgiving I would make Thanksgiving sandwiches and go up the top to the Claremont on Domingo to Pete's. And so a couple of years running we invited Liam to have Thanksgiving sandwiches with us, and he just thought there should be a Thanksgiving sandwich shop. This was a great tradition for a foreigner like him and me to think this thing up with the turkey and the crab. Everything was on the sandwich, and he just thought this was wonderful. One year he said that he was going to move to Myrtle Beach again and that he'd met this lovely girl, and off he was going to go. And my husband said to him, well, just don't pack everything up, because at that time he was seeming extra vague and extra diffusive. And my husband said to him, no, well, don't pack everything up, just go and try it and see what's happening first. And things didn't work out, and he did come back, and I ran into him, and he did let me know that he'd come back, and he was quite happy back in his White Horse corner apartment. Jay Baba.
Thank you, Randy. And
So
Jack,
Rainey, that apartment, is that the apartment? that you're
yes,
talking?
yes,
where was the-
absolutely. Absolutely.
Where was the White Horse?
On the corner of Telegraph Avenue and his street is the White Horse Pub.
Oh my
White
goodness.
Horse Inn. Yeah, it's called the White Horse Pub now, I think. And that was one of the reasons that made him decide to take it.
Oh.
And as Max can tell you, even Barbara appeared on a tree outside this
Oh
flat.
yes, that's
Definitely
that's
for
it.
Liam,
Yeah. But Ben Lee said that he drove Liam back from Myrtle Beach. Ben, are you still here? Is Ben still here? You drove him back. You said, right? From Myrtle Beach? Didn't you tell me that?
2009, I guess it was January, February 2009. I drove him back, yeah, and then he stayed at my apartment for a while, and while he found the apartment on 66, which is what you're calling the White Horse location.
The White Horse Hotel Pub, yes, on the corner of 66th and Kelly. Yeah.
As I know.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Well, all right, we'll find out.
All right. So
Yes.
Jack, your turn. You've got a hand up.
Yeah, God, it's been a waltz down memory lane. And I have to say hello to old and past acquaintances and friends are on the list here tonight. Ben Lee, hi. I spent a lot of time with Liam over the last 35 years, and specifically working with him on the movie script. It started in 78, 79, when how I don't really remember how we connected, but we connected. My great grand aunt is a Mullans. And so we had that Irish connection. But anyway, we just friends from the start. And when I moved to, I did some editing on initially, and was up doing some work for him up in New York City back in 79, when I went up to see my mom, my old neighborhood. And then when I moved to Berkeley in 1980, we got together. I remember we went to see the opening of Gandhi together. And we talked a lot about the film, and I did, I rewrote this and that, and then, and every time he revised it in his way. he would send me a copy and I would go over it and suggest changes and stuff like that. That was my main thing with him. We both went to see Jean Adriel a day or so before she passed away. She was in a nursing home in San Fernando Valley, north of Los Angeles. That was another time. And then when I was living in India, the last time I saw him was when he came to my room in the PC, where I was staying for 15 years. And he was pretty depressed, to be honest. He just got tired of all the BS that he discovered was going on in Mehrabad amongst the so-called lovers and devotees in that. And then when I was in the Bay Area, my daughter died in 6 years ago, 5 years ago. We talked on the phone, and then I came over to see him, and he was living in that place in Berkeley. I forget what it was. And even then, he was really reclusive, and just wanted to get out of it all. So I don't have very much to say. He's just a good friend, and just a guy that I knew that I enjoyed being with, and he enjoyed being with me, and we always hit it off together, and there's never any problems between us. And, yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dad. Thank you.
Yeah, incidentally, I did write a ghazal as a tribute to not only Liam, but to all of us. But basically to the sobs and throbs. It's called Hearts on Fire, which was really really the title of the film, if it ever got produced, that he wanted, at least at that particular time.
Yes.
I'll read it to you. Hearts on Fire. Oh, beloved, I know I'm not alone in all of this constant search for one touch of your bliss. But my experience seems somewhat remiss, and perhaps that is why I keep wanting your loving kiss. For love that is real seems always a story in the making, one that constantly leaves one's mind quaking, one's heart undergoing persistent shaking, becoming that fiery ember of your own tasting. So when I stood behind the curtains admiring all the props, I came across a discarded script. On a chair it lay, most likely a scene, a part of a play. It had the emoting title, Sobs and Throbs, evoking the feeling of heart thumping and pumping and water falling teardrops. I soon realized that my being had tripped over my ego and onto the stage. The lights were aglare like pinpointed stars. The story of this life had turned another page. Love's out there somewhere, I said, among the taverns and the bars. And so, oh beloved, for whenever you show your lustrous visage, those who sense it spin on their heels and come running, hearts freed from their crusted cage, this thing called love. Let's see how it feels. I really often wonder if I turned my mind away in that moment, that ever-present moment when love stopped by the other day. And why is it that even up to now, my heart and my head always seem to be in constant torment? But once again, you have journeyed through another crack in time. Ah, but who will believe us? Does it really matter? But what's the point to voice a cause and to then be accused of a crime? And more often than not, words are at best the ego's mental pitter patter. But I no longer wonder, though it is what I know, that knowing without knowing how I know. For this love is real, and the rest illusions worldly show. And for the gift you have given me is the only one to be said aloud, that in the beginningless beginning and in the endless end, nothing is real but you, and nothing matters but love for God. So, O lovers and all lovers mine, let this be your banner for the rest of your lives. Soon hearts will turn without a moment's pause, and love that is real will be all of humanity's cause. So that's my tribute to Liam, and
Hey, Barbara.
um,
Wonderful.
Thank
you, Jack. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah.
Rosalie.
Hey, Baba. I'm happy to be here to hear. It was funny when I heard it says Liam celebration. I thought either he's gotten that movie together, something, or he's dead. And as it turned out, he's gone on. But when I met him in 1978, he was working for Mushroom Record Company. And I was looking for the picture he had behind the desk. I forget what his title was. He was something, but he was an imagist, something with imaging, you know, a very impressive title that I can't exactly remember. But he had this, here he was at this record company that was very, it almost seemed like a requirement for working there. They were all on cocaine, and it was very speedy, except Liam, no drugs for Liam and no drugs for the born again telephone operator. But he had this picture of Baba and the Mansili meme. I was looking for it in the picture book. I could not find it. And it was just astounding. I mean, it was right behind his desk, which it was out in the open. And I thought, you would definitely take a double take at that picture, no matter who you were. I love that about him. I was with him one time when he visited Jean Adriel. It may have been one of the first time, and I tell you, she was just delighted with Liam. It was a delight between them that it was so sweet to be there in the room. You know, she was at a care facility, and he just had such a Baba rapport for her. He like brought back her early days with Baba, and it was very strong. And I have to say this thing, because people always say, oh, well, she left Baba or whatever. But Elizabeth Patterson sent a message with me one time when I was on retreat, sent it back to California. And she says, tell Jean that so many people have come to Baba because of her book Avatar. So I think of that, and I think of like Liam that was so fired about Baba. He had this kind of just very strong joy. You know, I think of the best part of being Irish, because there is a downside. But, it's like somehow this magical, such a magical belief, with Baba, and such a connection with that early time, the Prem Ashram. And then he's working on that movie. And I thought, what can any of us know what our work is, or how it will be seen, and how God's coming through that work. But I think of Liam because he was working on it his whole life. And he was very particular, and he was trying all these possibilities of who to cast for Baba. But I love this quote of Baba, and it kind of says so much about that, your work. It says, Baba says, whatever is accomplished or in whatever you do or do not do is always my will. So I think that sums it up for me as far as the beautiful life work of Baba. Such a concentration on that beautiful time, Baba, with these young boys. And he was so incredibly moved by that time, Anyway, it was a joy to be around him. And it's funny, he was my crony during the election for Obama. He wanted Obama, and we'd watch all these rallies together. And he called Obama the anointed one. He says, "Don't worry, he's going to get in. He's the anointed one." Anyway, I loved knowing him and just kind of sharing, just to be around him, his faith in Baba, his beautiful faith and unshaken. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Rosalie, I just picked up this card that we found in the apartment. It's a card that Mani wrote Liam in 1983. And it's just a perfect addendum to what you just said. Can I read it?
Yep.
Dear Liam, your letter, paper, and cards I happily admired, and your Baba-ful greetings were a happy heart meeting. As you write, your work straining is actually grand training at Baba remembering. Keeps your head and your heart full of him, which is just what he wants for Liam. Mani.
Beautiful.
And I remember that, I guess it's okay to say this, I would hear occasionally, because I didn't see Liam for years at a time, that some people mocked him, and he would tell people that he was in fact Ali. I don't know if everybody remembers that. He had, no?
I do.
People that remember. Yeah, and then
He felt he was in that Prem Ashram. That's what
yeah, he felt he was reincarnated. And in my early days working in mental health, I would occasionally hear people sort of making fun of him, like, oh, he's delusional, this and that, but ultimately, I remember when I started getting involved at the very end in trying to help him, and he did say to me, Deborah, I was Ali. And it seemed so unbelievably irrelevant whether he was or wasn't, or was delusional or wasn't delusional, or was in fact Ali. Because like everybody has said here in one way or another, he was so one-pointed on Baba that was the salient takeaway with him for me. It sort of didn't matter. He was just one-pointed, and even at the end of his life, when his, as happens with dementia, the short-term memory just sort of dissolves and goes away. If you said Baba, he just lit up,
Yeah.
And it seems like that's what everybody's saying here in one form or another.
Can you put the card there in front of?
Oh
the
yeah,
chat?
this one is 1983.
Higher, yeah, there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course it's got Monty's duck. And then she wrote, the last card she wrote him was, she died 96, right?
Right.
Monty? So this is June 21, 95, and she summoned up the strength to write him a beautiful card in which she says, well, you know, I'm not much of a correspondent these days, but I read your letters with love and interest and share as always. It's wonderful to know from your latest that Baba is opening unexpected doors for his beloved film project. Surely the sweet fruit of your determination, patience with unswerving focus of over 20 years. So we don't wonder you look proud and happy in your picture with dear Michaeline. I don't know who that is. No, Liam, I have no objection to your using a brief and modified version of my donkey race story for the film as you requested. With lots of love in our beloved's glorious game, Mani. So it seems like that's what Mani is.
Can you hold it up?
Acknowledging.
Can you hold it up?
Oh, sorry. That's
Oh.
what Mani's acknowledging, his just unwavering determination.
Yeah.
And look at the card.
Oh.
Disneyland.
It's a small world after all. I know.
I mean, the lesson is that he never gave up.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah, and you know, for such a focus on that particular work, there's no telling, you know, whatever you think of, you become, you know, so it's like, wow. I think of that as far as being in the acting world, what you focus on, you know, you have to play these characters and how hard that must be at times. But, you know, you was playing that wrenching, heart-wrenching character, at least. So who knows, you know, because he was so fervent about it. You know, it was like, and that's sort of what creates things, you know, that strength of focus. Yeah. He had that, you know, imagination. So, yeah.
I felt that his initial experience with the book, it like cast a spell on him, and that gave it some credence. Who knows who he was? I don't know.
Yeah, my feeling was, who knows? Who knows? Who cares?
That's a good song. Gershwin Brothers. They can always get it.
It is good to remember we're all really one, because all these different lifetimes, you know, really.
I'd like to call on Farhad. I know Max invited him specially. Is that right? Yeah. So I maybe you don't have any anything to contribute, but
Well, actually, I wasn't quite sure if I would be able to make it or not. So I wrote something and sent it to Max with a couple of pictures. So maybe that can at some point be shared.
Oh,
but I'm just.
The perfect background you have there, Farhad.
Yeah, isn't it lovely?
Just talking about the white horse.
The white horse.
Why don't you share why don't you share the pictures and what you wrote? Because you have it in your sent email.
Yeah.
You sent it all to me.
Let's see.
You could just hold your phone up even with the picture's so cool.
Okay.
The writing is there.
Let me see if I can bring that up in my sent. Oops.
Or I'll resend it to you.
Not this one. Huh. Oh, here we go.
Oh, good.
I think it's taking its time downloading, but it has to do with the visit that Liam made to Iran and how we traveled together and we went to Yazd, and it's a picture of us in Bedel's old house, which we resurrected and became, and actually people live in there now. And Esfandiar Vasali spent his last days in that house. And there we go, yeah.
Hey.
So, and if you can see the front of the picture, the bottom of the picture, you'll see a bunch of rubble. The other one, I think the other one has the rubble. That's when we were digging a well for water. And as you can imagine, given Liam's that passionate interest in yeah, there we go. in the Prem Ashram, we had a lot of wonderful chats together, and I kept receiving his version after version. Each one, sometimes they seem to be kind of taking a totally different direction, and yeah, it was he considered it as his meditation on Baba, and he was such a mature soul, in many ways that all of you have witnessed and have expressed. And one of them was that he was not all that attached to results, and so he just kept
yeah,
right. And so Mary was there in Iran. I don't know where, did you meet Liam there in Iran, or Mary Weiss, or who was Mary Santamore at the time?
I met, that was before I had met Liam, and I went to Iran like late 70s, 78, 79, at that time.
Yeah, that was after.
Liam and I were good buddies from San Francisco.
I remember that, yeah, I remember that. So I would periodically run into Liam, in different Baba meetings, BOWS meetings or whatever. And it was the last time in India that we met. It so happened that a few people who had some connection with Iran, we all happened to be there at the time. And that included Liam, it included Peter Booth, it included, Falu, Jimmy and Rhoda had asked me to see if I could find Falu a job in Iran, because at that time, Iran was very affluent, had a lot of money and a lot of opportunities. And so in it was the summer of 78, I remember so vividly because it was such a strong, forceful statement by Erich, who said, who asked Peter, who was planning to return to Iran, not to go back and not to, for Falu to pursue any jobs. And Liam was also thinking of going back to Iran. He had developed a very sweet relationship with Chota Baba and was in communication with him and had arranged an interview with him that was taped. And it included Chota Baba's daughter, who was a very accomplished British journalist at the time, Shahnaz. And by the way, for those who are interested, there's a very delightful autobiography by Chota Baba's wife in English that is called Zelzala, which means earthquake, in which she talks about a remarkable part of Chota Baba's life that most of us don't know about, which is after he left Baba. And what a remarkable life that was. He and his wife made such a big difference in uplifting the southern very backwards cities near the Persian Gulf. They broke all kinds of prejudicial barriers and social barriers and religious barriers. And, you know, his wife didn't know really much about, he just knew that when Pakravan was a young boy, he'd been in India with somebody. That was about it. But she was totally puzzled by this guy because he had totally no interest in his own welfare. She wrote about this occasion where all the dignitaries in that area were invited to their house, and that was the time for him to shine and to kind of, you know, make something of himself or something like that. So all the dignitaries are there, and the wife is looking for Chota Baba and can't find him. Where is he? And he finds out that instead of being there to, you know, talk to these dignitaries, he's looking after the welfare of the drivers and the servants and those who have come with the dignitaries, making sure they have food, making sure that, you know, this was in his blood, and it was just not something that he, you know, tried to do. That is what he was. That's who he was. At any rate, it's a delightful book. At least I found it delightful. If anybody wants to look at that.
Farhad, please tell me the name of this book.
Yeah.
Zelzala. It is. Let me see if I have a copy of it to show you.
Liam went to Iran with Farhad.
This is fascinating.
I mean, it's like unending.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, hold it up.
Yes, please.
Oh.
Okay, wait.
Zilla.
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 Okay.
Is it all in Farsi?
No.
No.
In English.
Oh.
Cool.
And what is
The
the last
name
name?
of the author, please.
His wife was a remarkable lady. She was when we met him, I think it was with Erwin Locke and at the time, Anne Breen. He was telling us about his wife. His wife was traveling. She was the first woman mayor in Iran. She was an ambassador of sorts, a remarkable woman in her own right. But at any rate, and another thing was, I think, that very visit that I mentioned in India, where Erich strongly suggested that people not go back to Iran, things hadn't quite gotten bad enough for, you know, Erich to have said something like that, but he knew. And then when I was leaving, I think Liam was with me on Mehera's porch when Mehera asked about Iran and things that were beginning to brew over there, and said that, well, she wanted me to give a Baba button that was blessed by Baba to the Queen of Iran. Go figure. But anyhow, so, and of course, on Mehera's porch, anything seems possible. So I said, of course. And then Mani got one, put it in a beautiful pink envelope and wrote from the Queen of Hearts to the Queen of Iran. And then gave it to me. And so, and then it was not until I got on the plane that it hit me, how am I going to do this? But, you know, whatever Mehera wanted would happen, and it happened. And this is my belief that the family, the wife and the children were saved by Baba's grace through that gesture of Mehera's, because everybody was out there to kill them. You know, of course, the Shah died a natural death. And then the Queen Queen's 2 children committed suicide later on, lovely children, but that was their destiny. But her son is the one that is now the most eloquent, capable, and forceful power for bringing down the regime that is now in there. And so now he survived. Baba wanted him to survive to play this role. And so anyhow, that's at least my interpretation of the role of that. But Liam, we kept in touch on and off, mostly serendipitously, as we would kind of run into each other. Then when the book, The Boys came out, I wanted to let him know that, he's been amply quoted in that book and credit has been given to his interviews and all of that. So through Max, I got reconnected with Liam, and at that time he was beginning to not, be himself. But so initially he didn't recognize me, but then after a while, he kind of recognized me, and so we kind of reconnected in a very sweet way, and I wished him happy birthday, I think a month or so after that. Anyhow, and I thought that how apt that he should deserve to go the way that Jean Adriel went, because his dementia was very similar when he took me to see Jean Adriel. And just as everybody described how delighted Jean was, to see him. I think Rosalie was saying that. And that I kind of, again, have these theories that kind of mean nothing just because I have a scientific mind. It makes me say things like this, that those who go with their minds weakened, perhaps that's a way for them to be prepared for a next life when their hearts will be leading over the head. And that is beloved Baba's grace to, as difficult as it is, to prepare us all, because we are all one body. We are not Liam and me and Debbie and, Rosalie and Max, and we are all one person, and that person is Meher Baba. And we just have this privilege to frolic in his creation and, occasionally remember him. That is his show. We have nothing to do with it. We didn't come here on our own. We're not going to go on our own. It's his show. It's a borrowed body, a borrowed ego, borrowed everything. And at any rate, so my dear Liam, you know this now. We are trying to kind of put ourselves in a place that we can remember it, but now you feel it with all your body, with all your soul, with all your being, that there is, poor Baba, how many times has he to repeat this thing? That is only him, my goodness. Well, Jai Baba, dear ones,
Jai
Baba.
such a privilege to be part of this love piece.
Farhad, could you show the book one more time?
Yeah,
Just brief
please.
flash it to us.
If I can remember where I put it.
Hold it.
Yeah.
It's blending in.
Hold it up. Hold it up.
In front of you.
Take it
Yeah, put it in front of the
closer
body,
to your
yeah.
face.
Wait,
Take it closer to. Well,
lift it up a little more now. Higher.
There.
Higher.
There.
If you stand up with it, it will help.
okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Would
Yes.
somebody please spell Zelzala for me? Spell Zelzala, because Farhad froze and the book is invisible, like looking
Okay.
a shadow. I can't see the words.
Z-E-L
Zelah. One
A
L.
woman
Got
before
it.
her time.
Wonderful.
Lift it up, you see that.
And it's by Mariam Behnam.
Yeah.
And
Mariam Behnam.
I typed it in the chat. It's all in the chat.
Oh, thank you, thank
Yeah.
you.
All
right.
Farhad, just, did you say what year you were in India with Liam? And were you there
78,
with
yeah. End of,
78? And
yeah,
with
it was August of 78, and then the revolution happened in January of
79?
79.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were with Peter? Peter was there?
Well, Peter didn't return to Iran because of Erich's admonition.
Right, right.
But he had, he was in Iran for a couple of years, and whenever he would come in, he would stay with me.
Yeah.
And then another person who Iran had become at that time, Baba had made it a way station. Anybody who wanted to go to India or come back, they would stop there. And that way he would give me a pleasure of connecting with folks.
So just not to belabor too much, but what was Liam, did you invite Liam to come with you, or how did that come about?
No, he knew about, he wanted to do this Prem Ashram project.
And so he
And
was
so he
doing more
wanted
research?
to connect with the Prem Ashram boys
Okay.
and so forth. And so, yeah, so he came.
Yeah.
And,
So did he plan to go make that plan on his own then and just meet with you? How, or did he?
yeah,
plan-
we connected, we exchanged, I don't remember the details of how we connected, but we connected, and so he came, and then we traveled together.
So you
Just like, Nosher one came, we traveled together. Erwin Luck came, we traveled together. And Nosher one came with his delightful mother. Gosh,
Yeah.
they stayed with us for a while, and it's just lovely.
Oh my goodness, there's so much. I can't believe how much Liam.
Yeah, he was a fireball.
Yeah. So
It's so
you helped him
delightful
gather
to-
research ultimately, more research.
Well, he did it on his own.
Yeah.
He didn't need any help. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's so
Oh my
wonderful to
goodness.
see people I haven't seen in such a long time. David Miatki,
Great to see you.
Debbie, Mary.
I always loved you, Farhad, you know that.
Oh, of
I don't
course.
know why. I just
No,
always
I think we
loved
all,
you.
yeah, I think we have no choice on these matters. We are Baba's children, and
That's right.
we all love each other. Sometimes the love comes to the surface, and sometimes it's hidden. David Miatki played accordion at my wedding. Can
That's
you
right.
imagine?
That's right. And your dad was with me in the lagoon cabin, and way back, and that was the time when by the time I went home, I was inspired by Baba to write the East West Gathering music. He was checking on you, and he was reading the discourses or something, and I'm on the other side looking at the Hammer Clavier Sonata of Beethoven, silently practicing it. So that's the beginning, and we speak about Baba's fire today because I just finished again the 20 volumes of Lord Mayhair.
Oh my God.
And I'm on the manifestation part, and so this is I write a brief 5-line poem every morning, and I send it to my wife Karen DeWald. This one is: just one look, the heart stood still. All it took, by your divine will. Music, sweet mystery, the name, timeless history. O Mayhair, love's fire on Meribad Hill.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Lovely, just beautiful.
Thank
David.
you. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
Liam made it possible for all of us to
Yeah.
reconnect.
Great about
I'm
Liam.
sure he's, yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to excuse myself,
Thank you so much.
but
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
so much for having me.
Thank
Jai
you for
Baba.
coming.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba. Oh my goodness. A whole new, talk about facets of the diamond. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The door
Yeah.
opened on a whole new
Yeah.
Yeah.
chapter. Wow.
What year
picture
was
him
that you got married, Farhad? What year?
He's
Is he
gone, I
gone?
think.
He's gone.
Yeah, he's
But
got
you
go.
played, David. What year was that?
It was in the, I was out here, of course. I had to be.
It had to be after the 80s, right?
No, I think
early
it was
80s?
more, it was early to mid 80s,
Yeah.
around then. Yeah. Yeah. And I did meet his daughter at the Talbots just a few months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Oh.
So here we are. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Farhad is a gentleman and a scholar.
Oh.
You'll never get me to change my mind on that.
Gentleman in the true sense of the word. Such sweetness. Oh my goodness. Oh. We're all left kind of.
Well, now the question is, who's going to gather up all these pieces of information and do something with it?
Well, let's
Max?
see. Oh, wait a sec. Hold on. Yeah, wait.
Mary McDonald is not.
Mary.
Wait a minute.
She's not here to. So we could assign. That's terrible.
I have all these things that I was able to extricate out of the
I know about that.
clutter in the apartment, and
Yeah. What I'm doing is
I'm
I'm trying to get Liam's screenplay on the AMB Trust online library website. So, and Frank Lois is going to read it, and then hopefully, if he feels, then they'll add it. And maybe Liam will come back in his next life and make the film.
Can I add something?
yes.
You can hear me, can you?
Yes.
Yeah, Richard here. Just one aspect I didn't mention was the power of radio that probably brought Liam into music. And in my research, I found that after Liam was first with a company that became MCA Canada, and then I think he went to England with the Brian Epstein, the Beatles connection. Then he returned to Canada and he was with a company called Quality Records, which distributed A&M Records back before A&M set up their own operations in Canada. So Liam at that point would have been very much promoting Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass and Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66. These were the sort of artists that A&M was known for. But then Liam, in several months of 1969, before A&M tapped him to become their national promotion manager, he was with CKGM Montreal, and they had both an AM and an FM station. And the FM station later became CHOM, CHOM, the one that I mentioned. But Liam was, I think, the program manager, or he was programming music for both of the stations. And I think one can't minimize the effect probably radio and hearing these great songs had for Liam. I know, again, reviewing his Facebook pages, there was this reference to a trip back to Ireland he'd made, I think maybe 10, 15 years ago. And he was going on about how they still revered Buddy Holly over there. And I think he made some comment about Jerry Lee Lewis was still top of mind for people who love music over there and rock and roll. But we're thinking here in British Columbia, Canada, about the passing yesterday of a legendary disc jockey called Red Robinson. He is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland as a builder. So I imagine Liam probably had connections with Red Robinson, and certainly back east with innumerable programmers and music directors of radio stations, because that was very much a part of a promotion man job was to get out and sell the merits of these artists and their new records, especially if they were in new artists that the music director wouldn't have heard of. And I imagine there was probably a whole bunch of great memories Liam had until the end, because they always say music is one of the last things to fade with dementia.
That is true. That is true. Yeah.
That maybe some of these songs that he sold the sizzle on to people, to music directors and program directors of innumerable radio stations in Canada and maybe a few in the US, because I do have this hunch that in that 76, 77, maybe even 78, 79, that he was still doing some independent record promotion work. But obviously, from what Farhad said and others, that there were these trips to India and Iran, which I never knew about. So that is fascinating. But just to fill you in, maybe a little bit more, for a brief time, Liam was in radio. Maybe there were other times earlier in the 60s. I don't know, but kind of a fascinating part of his history.
Richard, here's a letter from Quality Records, which, as you know, was a very big company. April 15th, 1968. Dear Liam, I received copies of the Telegram and the Chum Chart with the Atlantic write-ups today. I would personally like to offer my congratulations on the tremendous promotional job you are doing. A part that was neglected in the Telegram write-up was the fact that without people like you out there, all that's happening at Atlantic would not be possible. Best regards, sincerely, Atlantic Records Sales Company, Assistant Director of Album Sales and Merchandising. So this is a corroboration of exactly what you just said.
Yeah, he
was a
became
great
actually
promoter. Yeah.
I think maybe after that letter,
This is
it
68.
was actually announced that he was in charge of Atlantic and ATCO. I think they moved him from Montreal to Toronto to sort of quarterback all releases from Atlantic.
Yeah.
But he'd obviously been doing many of them before that too. But he was actually the head of ATCO Atlantic promotions in Canada. And I think they sort of took him away from what he'd been doing in Montreal.
Yeah, when you look at these letters of recommendation and whatnot, you see he didn't stay long with each company. He's had a sort of restlessness, it seems, but everyone seemed to have pointed out that central character trait of his, that he was, that he had very high standards.
I remember he had gold records on his wall, but I don't remember what they were for or anything.
Huh.
It's like he was a catalyst or an inspiration. He inspired people to.
Yeah.
Janet, are you?
Yes. I may not have had a meeting of the minds with Liam about his screenplay.
Yeah.
But one thing we completely agreed on was Otis Redding.
Oh, well, who doesn't?
I should say, yes, but he knew Otis Redding. He worked with Otis Redding. All I could do was listen to him and love what I heard. And Liam made me love him more because he described Otis Redding's character. Sweet. Oh, I owe so much to Liam for that. That Otis Redding was just good all the way through. That was wonderful to hear.
Yeah, on a completely different. Where can one get that book? So that Farhad talked about, so like at Amazon. Did he say where to get it?
Probably there are articles about it online. You'd be able to look it up.
Oh,
Looks
that
like it's in print.
Yeah.
Thanks, Max.
Yeah.
Can you get it on Amazon?
I didn't have time to check, but it
okay.
looks like it's still available.
Okay.
So Amazon would probably have.
Yeah.
It was such a tantalizing bit from Farhad. It's like we'd have a whole meeting on that.
I
whole-
know.
Just started.
I know, that should have been the headliner there.
The only,
Hey, we
So the-
needed Liam to organize this thing, because if Liam had organized it, he would have put him on the headline.
some of you guys know Mark Carr in Myrtle Beach, and
Yes.
there was a story that used to make the rounds in Baba circles that Baba had played Otis Redding's records the day before his plane crash. And I think that was the only story Mark Carr could not, authenticate. He just couldn't find anything on it. I never seen it.
Huh.
Baba played Otis Redding in India.
No, there was a story an anecdote, or possibly a fictionalized anecdote that Baba had played his records. They had records in India, and
In India.
the day before his Otis Redding's plane crash. But Mark Carr was really good at tracing these things down, and he couldn't definitely authenticate that one. And I've never seen it in a book or anything.
Shucks.
So there, now you all don't know either.
We're gonna have to do this again.
Yeah,
Barbara, what do you?
wow, that was.
I didn't want to have to follow Farhad, but I did want to just add one piece for the family mostly. And it's different from everyone else's stories because it's very mundane and beautiful, which is that Max would regularly, up until just a couple, some years ago when things changed for Liam, but they would meet regularly for an early breakfast every, I don't know, how often was it, Max? You're muted, but I don't know how often.
It was most weeks on Sundays,
Yeah, most Sundays, and they're early guys, and I'm not a morning gal, so I usually skipped those, but I especially want his family to know that as well as being friends and spiritual cohorts, I would join them for holidays. We used to go down to LA for family on holidays, but then that stopped. And so every time was it usually Thanksgiving, sometimes Christmas, sometimes both, we'd connect with Liam and we would be each other's family for holidays. And so this non-American, and we would celebrate Thanksgiving like at a Himalayan restaurant or Indian restaurant, but it was so easy to be together. We were just family, and no demands on each other, just pure enjoyment. And so so it's wonderful to just remember the gentle soul that was Liam, and we love him so much.
Oh, sweet. Oh, that's wonderful to hear, Barbara. Well, maybe should we call it? Oh gosh.
The Zoom has declared itself.
Yeah, but I just want to say thank you to everyone that jumped in and helped me.
Oh.
I just really, I don't think I did that enough. So.
You did.
Where's Karen? Karen, did
They
she
left,
sign
yeah,
off?
but I think you made the point. when she-
Yeah, I just really,
Oh, here's Kathy Riley.
oh, yeah.
Oh,
I just want to, yeah, it was, yeah, just want to make sure that's
wow.
in the record.
I
Thank
think
you,
Mary,
everyone.
I think
And thank you,
Mary-
Betty, for pulling it all together.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
beautiful.
Betty. Thank you, Betty.
Yeah, I even got over my panic about getting on Zoom. Thank you, Betty. You made it much easier.
Okay, well,
all
I've been in this chair for a long time. I'm gonna,
Kathy, I'm sorry you're coming in really on the tail end. It's been a fabulous meeting.
Yeah, and we're not done. I think what I'll do is I'm kind of handling the cremation. Getting the family a little, and Liam and I think we have Mary McDonald to thank for that. Is she still here?
No, she had to go.
Yeah, she really had tried a couple of years back to really get Liam to do things that he needed to do, but he couldn't do them. She exhorted him to do things like make a will and do stuff like that, but he did do a burial plan.
Good.
And that made it much easier when he passed too. So he hasn't been cremated yet. It's due to happen in a 10 or 12 days, I think, so. As he wished it, so.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows.
He wished to be cremated.
He wished to be, he had actually, I'm pretty sure that Mary had gotten him to do that one thing a couple of years back. So he had purchased a burial plan, a cremation plan. He had made his wishes known in the correct legal fashion. And so when we went into the apartment, it's one of the things we found. And so I was able to turn that over to the hospital. Otherwise, it would have been a difficult thing would have been a John Doe situation. So anyway, I'll let everybody know when he's free at last. So
Thank you, Debbie.
if people wish.
Betty,
Yeah.
there's a hand, Ralph has a hand up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I'd like to share my brief and one and only time to spend a few moments with Liam. And it was in the 70s. I was living in Myrtle Beach. It was the early 70s. And I think Kitty asked me to give Liam a ride, perhaps up to Windy Hill, perhaps to the post office. I don't recall some specifics that much, but we rode up there and he all totally dominated any conversation altogether about a movie he had in mind for about Baba's life, biographical movie of Baba, and who he had in mind to play which roles. And I'd never met him before. He struck me as being a bit frail, you know. And I thought, well, that's a big job to make a movie. And I didn't say anything at all, but I listened because his ideas were open. You know, I thought, well, yeah, I don't know. You know, I didn't know anything about making a movie. And so I knew after that, it stuck with me. Did Liam ever, because he was on it, you know, I mean, he had like certain steps that he intended to take to follow through on this project. And I never in my life ever saw him again, or rarely ever heard his name. I didn't know what happened to him, but occasionally something would prompt me to wonder where Liam was and if he had made any progress on what became of his idea for a movie. Yeah.
You know.
Say Baba.
Not yet. You never know.
no, you never know.
You never know. And Ralph, if you watch this tape, I know you came in late to this meeting. You'll hear everything from beginning to end about his life.
Yeah, I'll get the recording. I'll get to catch up with what I missed by way of the recording. Yeah, thank you.
Alrighty. All right.
Thank you, Betty.
Let's go get dinner or a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Betty, will
I
you
don't
be,
think Liam could have been Ollie because no one knows for sure, but or maybe they do. Ollie may still be living.
No, he died
But
very
it
young.
occurred to me,
No, he
Died
died
young.
young.
did he?
Yeah, yeah.
Died in the thirties.
Oh,
Liam
it
was
occurred
born
to
in
me that
1938. So,
you never know who you're sitting next to. My God, you
well, yeah.
can't tell a book by its cover.
No,
I mean,
exactly.
it occurred to me though that he may have been Nellums, the Westerner who came, and Baba tried to slow him down, but he wanted to do everything the Mandali did. And he died of a small cut that got infected, became septic. He got fever and passed away.
Mhm.
Nellums.
He wrote a play.
What was his name? Was it Liam?
No,
Charles.
but Liam wrote a play about
Oh,
him.
that's
Christian
the
Nellums.
That's the
Okay.
one
Yes.
that Rainey was talking
Right,
about, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Liam wrote a
Yeah.
short play
Yeah.
about him. Yeah.
He did write a
Oh,
play.
oh, I
Oh,
just made the
really?
connection.
film.
Okay.
Mhm.
And who wrote
Well,
that? Liam wrote that
oh,
play
yeah,
about
he
that?
thought it would be a good
ambition to enact the
portal for
play.
Westerners to learn about Baba. Yeah.
Wait, say that again, Max?
He was like the first Westerner that ever came to the ashram, and I think Liam felt it was a good portal for Westerners to
Yeah, yeah.
learn the whole story and stuff. Yeah.
You mean in the Prem Ashram?
No, this was not in the Prem Ashram. This was in the
Okay.
20s or something. He came.
Okay.
Manzili meme.
Manzilimim or the
I
Lower
think
Maribad
Maribad.
or
I think
something?
Maribad, but I'm not
Lower
sure.
Maribad. Okay.
Barbara,
Oh, I never understood.
I was going to ask a question, Betty. Will you be putting out like some just general announcement to let people who either came in late or had to leave early or weren't able to come to this, that they can watch the recording at a certain link?
Yeah. Angela always announces
I
when
see.
in a weekly announcement.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Barbara, because I actually want to invite the doctor that took care of Liam at the end to watch this if he's at all interested. So
Alvin,
I just an intuitive feeling. He was just such a lovely gentleman. So, and we didn't know much to tell him, there wasn't much information that we could give him.
Wait, what is his quote? The body has.
No, and well, we were, it was a kind of typical thing that happens when somebody's admitted and then it's clear that they're not going to make it. And he started having renal failure, and there was a lot of discussion back and forth about what to do or not to do. And at a certain point, and this doctor was very nice, he would call me every night at 6 o'clock to give me an update. And at a certain point, a couple days before he passed, he said, "Miss Tyler, I do believe the body has declared itself." And I just thought that was the greatest thing I'd ever heard.
Oh well, his quote will live on.
Is that a medical idiom or something, or he was?
No, I mean, I've worked in the medical field for 40 years. I've had a lot of clients pass. I'd never heard it. It was so elegant.
Yeah. You're right.
Well, I think it's wonderful that you're inviting him, because I think that anyone in the caring profession likes to get closure on people who pass through their portals.
No, I gave him general information about who he was and why I was involved, but no, and here we are trying to find the family like idiots. We couldn't find them, and so it's it just really struck me as a beautiful thing to say. So.
Yeah, it's interesting that the family. I was trying very hard to find the Baba lover in Ottawa who was connected with the family and gave them news of Liam's welfare in a couple of years. But I wrote to people in Montreal. There's a Rachel Tarian lives in Montreal, and she gave me the name of another Baba couple there, but they never responded. And I called Myrtle Beach and asked if they had any names in Ottawa, and they didn't. But
Liam's, did all that. I didn't.
Yeah,
realize.
Liam's brother said that they do know who it was, but he didn't want to come today. So I'll never know. Maybe we'll never know.
Well, and there was, they weren't in touch for a while. There was quite a long period of so. But anyway, it all seemed to kind of work out.
Yeah, everything worked out.
The link will be posted. Angela sends out an email. I'm not sure that everybody gets it. It's a Baba Zoom kind of weekly report. Max will know, I'll know.
It can be found on YouTube if you go to their, what's the,
So
what's,
this
Dollar.
doctor who
Yeah.
isn't a Baba lover, will he have problem getting to Baba Zoom on
no,
YouTube?
just, yeah, send them the
Oh,
link.
to see the video? No, if
Yeah.
we send it, the link will take him right to it. Angela just has to process the video and then she will,
Okay,
and so it will just be permanently on our gallery.
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I'm really bad at that, so I might ask for help.
And what's it called? Worldwide Baba Family, Betty? What's the official name? Do you know? To get to it on YouTube?
I forget.
Okay, well, I'll send it out to some of you.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
okay.
Very good.
Could
All
we
right.
do the beloved God prayer before we break up the circle?
Okay.
Yeah,
And my dog will join us. I'll mute, I'll mute, I'll mute.
There it is.
my cat's been sitting behind me the whole time, so just jumped off.
Here we go.
Beloved God.
Beloved God,
Help
help
us
us
Help us
all
all
to
to love you more,
more and more,
more,
and more and
more
more,
and more,
and
and
still
still
yet more, till
till
we become worthy of union with you, and help us all to
hold fast
to Baba's
Baba's
Daman
Daman
until
till
the very end
end.
of Tad
Baba
Jai,
PJ.
of Tad Meher Baba,
Baba PJ.
of Tad
Meher
Baba PJ.
PJ. Thank you, everyone.
It's all yours now.
Thank you, Betty.
Jai Baba.
Jay Baba.
You guys have had quite a long meeting.
Yes.
Hours, 3 hours. Yeah, Liam was
If
fun.
anyone is interested in joining the 10 States of God study group, put your name in the your email address in the chat, and I'll send you the reminder.
Okay.
You
Thank
caught
you.
us. We're all wiped out.
Thank you.
No, it's not going to happen right now. It's happening on Fridays at 12:30 East Coast time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank
Jay,
you.
I'm not
highly
Thanks, everyone.
recommend it.
I've had it.
Highly
Goodbye, all.
recommend it.
Jay Baba.
Jay Baba. Good night, all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Leave meeting.
Well, here we are. Hey, Shraddha.
Hey, Christina.
How are you, darling?
I
Hey,
noticed,
Diana.
Christina, the recording's still on. You might want to stop
Oh,
it.
how do I do that?
You find, I don't know, where it says record, just
Oh,
stop.
pause, stop recording.
No,
Okay.
don't, you can stop it. You don't have to pause it.